Good day. I am so excited to be here with Lauren Morotti Furtado, who is the CEO, owner of Live Happier Wellness, which is a wellness company that caters to busy working women, both inside and outside of the home. Yes. And if you go to her website, which we'll put in here, you can see all sorts of inspirational quotes, ideas, her mission, and everything else, which is very enlightening and super beautiful and very articulate for what I think resonates with today's working woman. Let's go. Lauren, can you share with me a little bit about your journey in establishing Live Happier Wellness?
Yeah, so Live Happier is really all about a kind of process of getting to know yourself better and really figuring out how you want to get the most out of your life. And that's from like tweaking little tiny things in your routine to, setting long-term goals. And that's something that I always, even like as a kid, I was always future forward thinking. I was the kid who I shouldn't admit this, but I would assign myself homework when I was in kindergarten because I wanted to be getting myself forward. And
you're such an achiever.
I would do these outlines of my my home, what I wanted to look like a sketch. That was one of my things that I would do in my spare time. So I've always kind of had that in me, that ability to want to kind of take control of my life, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
And that got me through college and to the job that I wanted, which was in corporate marketing, which I really loved for a while. And then I kind of started to feel like I wanted something more. I wanted my time to be not just work, but more creative outlets. And so I kind of paired the career I had with, I went and got my health coaching certification because I was really interested in the habit change side of it. And I put those two together, and that created Live Happier.
Wow. Something resonated with me that you said, that you gave yourself homework and you would go home and sketch pictures of the house that you wanted or the home that you wanted. I don't know why I'm resonating with this, but for obvious reasons. Do you feel like you've manifested that space for yourself since you were a child?
I'm getting there.
Okay.
I mean, we just did a kitchen remodel,
which
so
is beautiful.
That, is, oh my gosh, it's being able to wipe down a clean, nice quartz countertop versus the 80s tile.
Yeah.
It makes a big difference.
Yeah.
But someday I would love a little farmhouse in the country. That would be that's where we're trying to get to.
So we just recently did a networking event and you had us sit down and think about and establish our goals. So that sounds like it could potentially be a future goal for you and your family. Mm-hmm. Can you tell us a little bit about how you outline and manifest and dream to create those goals that you envision for yourself and your life?
Yeah, well, so going through, all my training and then working with clients for the past 6 years, I kind of created this system, which I now do, which is called the Goal Setting and Strategic Vision Board Program. And essentially, we do a goal setting activity, which is a little bit different than I think what people would typically do on their own. It's pretty structured and gives a lot of support for, it's not just setting the goal, but how are you going to support that for the next years to come. And so what I do is I kind of create these puzzle pieces in the vision board, and it starts with a very high level goal. And I always say, we start with a goal that's typically we say something we want to have, like a house. Mm-hmm. But I like to take it to that higher level. And why do you want that house? What is that? How is that going to make you feel?
So I hear you saying that you start with the end goal and that you utilize basically a sentiment or a feeling. So what is the psychology behind adding that sentiment or feeling in order to actually achieve or attain that goal of whatever it is, working out 3 times a week or a house or a job, manifestation, whatever?
Yeah, that's a really important part. So the reason that we focus on the feeling is because ultimately when we're trying to change a habit, change something, within us, it really needs to go to the deepest level. So often people aren't successful with their goals because it's the wrong goal for them. It's maybe what they think they want, but it's not really lining up with that actual feeling. So there's a hierarchy of needs. That's the psychology piece of it. And so when you really get down to what drives change, it's usually belonging, love, things like that. Mm-hmm. Community, connection. Mm-hmm. And so usually when I work with a client, I can kind of get them to that higher level goal where it's touching one of those things. Mm. Sometimes for some people, there are other needs, which are the more basic needs. food, shelter. I mean, that could be a starting point for some people as well. It just depends on where you are.
Interesting. What were the key moments or your experiences that inspired you to create this platform for working women?
Honestly, like my own journey. So again, when I was in the corporate world, and I loved it, I really did, but there was just a real lack of focus on self-care. And I actually worked for an amazing company that did focus on that. And it was still hard to really put my health, my wellness, above deadlines.
Right.
And then also becoming a mother, right? There's just so many things change and you kind of lose control of your schedule and everything becomes even harder. And so I really, I just value so much the idea of making yourself a priority above work. Is kind of one thing that I say a lot to the, working women that I work with, and working, whether that's working at home or in the office, right? That is like the key point of really being able to change a lot of the way that you run your life for people who are struggling with that, people who are struggling with putting their self-care first, is really the mindset of it's okay that my making breakfast or going on a walk takes over priority over a deadline, or sometimes even, dealing with your kids. Sometimes, if you have to call and help, whatever it is, that's something that I just feel really passionate about, helping people feel and know that almost like giving a permission, because sometimes I feel like we need to feel like we need permission even though we don't. And so that's a lot of what I do, is just kind of trying to get people to understand, like, it's okay for you to choose this over, saying yes to that, next work project that comes up. Not that you don't do it, but that, if the deadline comes down, it's okay to put that, maybe a little bit later and get your walk in or whatever it is that makes you feel, taken care of.
I struggle with that. That's like the key to life balance or whatever. So how do you get your clients to understand that it is okay to push something that's been kind of designated as a deadline or something that needs to be done in order to take care of their mental, physical health and emotional health?
Yeah, I mean, it starts really with that mindset that I mentioned, and that's something that we work on. So in the wellness bar, the group classes that I do, that's a huge part of it, and it'll be weekly. It's not like we do one activity and think about it and talk about it, and then it's like, oh, now I feel this way. It's like every week you work on it, and it's a lot of retraining your mind. So it's a lot of the things that you're telling yourself each day. So I always start with, let's experiment for the week, and really, instead of trying to change anything, just take note of what you are saying to yourself when that deadline comes up. Are you saying, no way, I have time for nothing else. This is important because I might let this person down, because I might look bad. Those are the kind of things you want to start looking out for. And that'll give you some sort of indication of, how you want to change that, rhetoric in your head in order to start believing that you can put yourself first. It doesn't mean every time you're putting yourself first, but a good amount of time that you feel like you're taken care of is really the balance that we're striving for.
Well, it's like when you get on an airplane, right? It's like, put your oxygen mask on before you help the kid. If you're not taking care of your needs, then you can't give.
Yeah.
So I've always thought about the generational issue. I don't know if I want to call it issue. The generational change of what a woman's role used to look like versus now in 2023 what the expectation is. And I often joke that hooray, we're now allowed to work outside of the home.
Yeah.
But I feel that there's also this underlying expectation of it's not instead of, it's in addition to.
Yes.
And so it's yay, we've given you all of these freedoms, but also with it, you have so much more responsibility. And for me personally, I battle with that regularly. I work more. I don't know what full time actually even means.
Yeah.
But I work a lot.
Yeah.
And then I come home and I'm like, oh, well, the home is not cleaned. Again, it's to my standard. I have a standard of cleanliness, and then it's okay, well, I'm going to take that role on as well. And then I just get frustrated with my family. Love you guys. And I'm like, why isn't your room picked up? Why is your dirty laundry on the floor? I guess this is my responsibility too, because it is what I need to feel like a feeling of like calm and centeredness at home, which is what I want when I come home?
That's the hard question, and there aren't really any good answers I feel like I can give you at this point, except for that I feel like that's a much bigger cultural change that needs to shift, and so it's going to be much bigger than, you know, one of us, but all of us together really trying to figure out how we can, just like we shifted, you know, being able to, you know, have a career and be in the workforce. The next shift is how can we, you know, start to adjust those responsibilities so it isn't workforce and all the other stuff that, you know, we typically used to do or still do. So, I mean, one of the things that I'm really passionate about is prenatal, maternal, and postpartum care and family leave. Just starting with that piece. I mean, I was really, really fortunate, was able to stay home with my daughter for a good amount of time. And I was thinking like every day about the women who didn't want to go back to work. If you want to go back to work, fine, great. But the people that didn't or were really not feeling well physically. And the idea of that, it just blows my mind. So even starting at that point, I feel like is a good place to focus some of our energy and then continue, you know, to move forward.
Mindfulness is something that you talk about a lot in your coaching sessions. Can you talk or elaborate a little bit about what it is that you cover in your mindfulness trainings? And then also if you could give us any techniques that we could utilize on a daily basis, that would be awesome.
So mindfulness is really one of the biggest pieces of being able to change a habit, right? So the biggest thing to start off with is really understanding where you are. And one tip that I always give, you know, to anyone and anyone going through any of my classes or programs is really try and approach what you're doing if you're, you know, trying to change a habit or, you know, reach a goal with treating yourself with kindness and approaching with curiosity and experimenting. So that's one thing. And that really helps you when you're looking at it that way, taking away maybe any, you know, shame or guilt that you have for where you currently are, and you're just looking at it as starting out, where am I? What are the thoughts that I'm thinking? What do I do when I, you know, say I'm going to do this and I decide not to, or vice versa, whatever it is. So starting out with really just understanding where you are. And then you have to understand, you know, where you want to go. And that's where the goal setting piece is really critical, and that ultimate goal of trying to figure out how you want to feel. So once you get that, you understand where you are right now, you understand how you want to feel, then you can kind of start to put a plan in place. And one of the biggest things that I always say, and this falls under the mindset piece, is identity. Have you learned anything about how your identity can help with habit change?
Tell me more.
So one of the biggest ways to really make a long-lasting habit change. So, you know, often we'll do something maybe for like 30 days and then it goes away. If something is tied to your identity, there's a much greater chance that it's going to stay with you long term. So if you think about people who say like, I am a runner, they do certain things that other people that don't consider themselves or don't call themselves that might do. It's kind of like
I've studied this.
Yeah. So
like I what was the example? It was like, do you have a cigarette? And somebody said, no, I don't smoke, versus no, I'm not a smoker.
Yes, exactly.
I was like,
and it's powerful. Again, the way that you talk to yourself, the way that you're saying, which goes under mindset, is so powerful. I mean, and that's why I always start with like just experimenting for a while and just kind of gathering the information. But to take it back to identity, yeah, I mean, that's one of the things. So if you want to be, let's see, I was listening to someone the other day that transformed their health. And one of the ways that they did it was they started saying, I am healthy. And they weren't healthy at the time, but they kept saying that. And there's other things that kind of go into it that back that up that I could, you know, share later. But that alone was like that made them make decisions of a healthy person.
Right. You mention wanting to base your goals off of feelings. How do people recognize or realize what feelings? Again, asking for a friend. I know for myself, I'll like set goals and I'll be like, this will make me happy. This will make me feel successful. This will make me feel like I've achieved something. And every time I hit that goal, I'm like, what's next? Like I forget that celebration moment.
Yeah.
And I'm like moving. I'm like, nope, that wasn't satisfying enough. Like what else is there?
Well,
asking for a friend.
You bring up a good point in which the feeling, the reason that, besides the psychology behind it, the other reason that starting with a feeling as that high level goal is so important is because it takes away the stress of the actual things that you're doing. So if your goal is to, say, feel strong, and your kind of objectives underneath that are, maybe it's like gain 5 pounds of muscle, or being able to do a pull, whatever, you know. Mm-hmm. As long as that strong feeling gets hit, then the other things don't really matter. That's kind of the empowerment of starting with an I want to feel statement is what I call it. Mm-hmm. And to your point of, you know, I feel like I get to that thing and I'm not
satisfied.
Like, yeah, what's the next thing? Mm-hmm. I would say, without, you know, knowing all the detail, that whatever that
I need a
feeling...
I need a psychologist.
My friend does. I recommend a therapist for everyone. I feel like it can always be helpful. But there's probably the feeling that you're searching for either isn't the right feeling, or the things that are the objectives below it aren't getting it to that point. So that's where we would look at those two things and see how they need to readjust.
Therapy. Okay. Building a supportive community is one of the 7 pillars that I noticed in Live Happier Wellness. Can you talk about how you build that supporting community for your clients and what the outcome has been as far as creating the environment and space for people to feel connected and supported?
Well, it's something that I would love to grow a lot more within Live Happier. The way that we do it right now is within the group wellness bar classes. And so the nice thing, it's very small. It's like 3 to 4 people, including myself, mm-hmm. and we meet weekly for a month. And so that provides this little space where we all really know each other's goals very intimately and what we're working on, and it allows each other to share tips or encouragement, things like that. And it's this space that you get to show up each week where you just focus on yourself. Mm-hmm. Like that's what I say is the value in it. It's like you're just thinking about yourself. You're getting to be intentional. You're doing a little check-in, which normally would usually just kind of get like washed away with a busy week. And so that's a really nice form of community and support. But I think the other pieces are, if you don't feel like you're having that support, whether it's your friends, family, whatever, I'm just like a big proponent of going to events, things like your events, and meeting people, trying to connect on whatever level, on a hobby level, on a career level, on a especially like new moms with the, you know, babies and mm-hmm. kind of entry into that whole phase of life, doing something like Fit for Mom, where you're just surrounded by other women and hopefully can connect with some of them. And even if it's not a big connection, sometimes just that hour of being around other, you know, women or people in your same circumstances is enough to feel like, oh, I'm not alone in this. Mm-hmm. There's other people feeling the same way, and mm-hmm. and I get to connect them each week or whatever. But it is something that I would love to grow. I would love to be doing more community events, things like that. So it's a way that I want to, a place that I want to take Live Happier too.
I love that. I've noticed for myself, like anytime I open up to somebody or put myself in a position to surround myself with people that are in similar circumstances or having similar experiences, it's like, oh my gosh, like we can relate so good. I feel like connected and better about what's going on. I'm not alone. Like I have somebody that I can call on for help, and they can do the same with me. And it always, I think, is inspirational and like very supporting. So that's cool. Your resource covers a wide range of topics, including self-development, relationships, motherhood, and mindfulness. How do you ensure that the content provided is relevant and tailored to the specific needs of your target audience, which is busy working women in the young family phase?
So one of the things I try to do with the wellness bar, which is, you know, the group classes, is I do try and pair people in what I call similar phases of life. One of the groups that I'm hoping to start, a couple of people that are interested, are in like the new mom phase. So grouping them together. And then I have another person who is reaching out who wants to join the wellness bar, but they wouldn't really be a good fit for that group. They're in a total different phase of life. So I'm starting to reach out and see if there's someone that I can get that would be a better fit for that person. And so, yeah, it's kind of grouping people together. If people really don't care, then that's fine. But I do like to have a little bit of a similarity because, again, it can, like what you just said, it can help people just connect a little bit better.
Yeah. Can you share with us some of the success stories you've experienced with your clients?
Okay. One of my first clients, this person was, and I always caveat with, like, I am not a weight loss coach. That is not what I do, but sometimes that's a person's goal, right? So that's fine. This person had been yo-yo dieting for a while, years, and he came to me. This was actually a man, and he came to me and just wanted to figure out how we could kind of just stay at this place. And so we worked together for 3 months, but what I'll share is the thing that he took away that was the most empowering for him, and that was that he felt like if he couldn't do an hour-long workout, because he used to be like a gym rat, and like, so that was in his head, that was the mindset, that was the thing he was telling himself, of, I need to do an hour-long workout, and if I can't fit that in, he's a salesperson on the road, super busy, if I can't fit that in, then I can't work out. And I talked to him. I was like, okay, well, what about when you're in your hotel room? Do you think you could fit in 15 or 20 minutes? He's like, well, yeah, I have time for 15 or 20 minutes. And that was like the change for him. Now, that was not the only thing he changed. But again, it went back to that mindset piece of it. Opened up his eyes that he could look at things differently, and how he approached, what he, called his lifestyle changes. So that was one person.
I love that. I got the chills.
Oh, good. Yeah, it's a cool story.
And I can relate completely.
Yeah, I mean, I think we all can. One of the most recent women that I worked with, so we worked together for, again, 3 months, the program. And, she felt like she was struggling during the program to, like, she would almost say, like, I feel like I'm letting you down. I'm like, no, this is not about me. It's all about, you and connecting with yourself. And she's like, I definitely am learning things, but I feel like I'm not all the way there. And then, a month after we wrapped, she came up to me. She said, guess what? Her goal was to get back into exercise, and amongst other things, but that was one of her main goals. She's like, I've been working out consistently. It just finally clicked. And so again, it's not really what I'm doing. It's more of the practice, it's the practice of staying connected with yourself each week, tuning in, seeing how things are going, experimenting, and just keeping at it until one of those tools really does do like the trick for you.
And I think having you as like an accountability partner and somebody that is there to support while they go through this change, to remind them.
I mean, being in this role, this, job, this career, sometimes it feels like it's not a job because I'm doing what I love. And really, so all of these things are things that I use myself, right? Everything that I share with people, I've probably used myself, and I love being able to share it. And really, it's empowering people to really take control of their life. And so to me, that's the beauty of it. When I am working with someone and they get one of those, I call it like an aha moment. Being in this job, this career, sometimes it doesn't feel like work because it's fun for me. Like I always think if I didn't have to, earn an income, didn't have to live in Santa Cruz, I would do it for free. I love it. I love it so much. And one of the reasons...
I can tell, which is probably why you're so good at it.
Thank you. But one of the reasons that it makes it so special is because, these tools that I use myself, right? The tools that allow you to kind of shape your life and change a little bit to your routine to make big differences, it's really empowering. So to be able to share that with people and see them have these, aha moments or key insights, that really shift the way that they approach their life now, but also like for the rest of their life. It's really cool to be a part of. And that, once there's these little shifts, it's not just a one-time thing. It's really the way that they're seeing themselves and the way that they can kind of interact in the world. So that by far is like the most satisfying thing.
Can you just give us like an umbrella overview of what you offer people who come in to live happier, and then also how can they connect with you so that they can receive your services?
Yeah, so there's 3 things, 2 that are like programs. So one is the Wellness Bar, which is a group accountability class. We meet weekly for an hour over Zoom for about 3 months. And that's really where we do the goal setting in the beginning, the first maybe 2 meetings. And then we practice building the routine. We experiment with it. We try different habit change tools. Each week I introduce a new habit change tool that you can, utilize if it works for you. So the other thing is the goal setting and strategic vision boards, which is doing that same goal setting exercise at the beginning. I do a call with the client, and it's just about 45 minutes to an hour, and I extract all those puzzle pieces, is what I call them, and put together the board for them. I make a custom print for them.
They're beautiful, by the way. I've seen them. They're beautiful.
And they're so, I love doing them.
I can tell.
They're so fun.
Your mother-in-law loves them too.
Oh, yes.
The ones that you made her.
She is always so supportive.
Very.
So those are the two things. And then the other thing that I do are the self-care affirmation prints, which are all really based off of affirmations and mindset shifts that have happened over the last 6 years with clients. I kind of took those and put them into prints, and so those are little reminders you can either put in your mirror or put in your office, whatever, and I do custom ones of those.
And they're also super beautiful, like frameable office wear or in your house for your family and kids to see. I love them.
Thank you.
How do you help your clients with the burnout fatigue feeling if they want to keep going to reach that goal, but it's just at some point it's exhausting?
And that's where self-care really has to be so when you're talking about goals, there's career goals, there might be financial goals, parenting goals, and then there's your health goals. So the area that I, really focus on with people is to focus on those health goals. So to me, that would, indicate that maybe there's some sort of imbalance that just for a little bit, maybe put more effort in the other side. And again, it goes back to that mindset of, well, if this goal is making you feel, trying to reach this goal is making you feel this way, then there's something in there that needs to be, there's something in there that's not aligned that needs to be, kind of tweaked, at least temporarily, to maybe take that stress off for a little bit, recalibrate. Does that make sense?
Yeah. If you want to reach out and get any of Lauren's amazing services, I would highly recommend it. We will put all of her information below so that you can click the link and reach out to her directly. Anything else?
No, thank you.
That's it. Live Happier Wellness. Highly, highly recommend Lauren. She's an amazing human.
Thank you.